Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Billy.
I'm Chloe.
A former band member of One Direction, Liam Payne, has been found dead in Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. Payne is survived by his 7-year-old son, who he shared with former partner, singer Cheryl Cole. Today, we will trace the rise of the British musician, his remarkable success with one of the world's most popular boy bands of all time, his solo career, and the struggles he faced in the spotlight. Chloe, before we do this podcast, I think it's important to talk about a few of the comments that the Daily Aus got yesterday, where some people were questioning why we were reporting on the details of this death. And I just quickly wanted to really explain our thinking and explain why we think that this is news worth reporting on. Because our audience is right that traditionally TDA doesn't really report many stories from the pop culture space. But I think that yesterday, this story about the death of Liam Payne was one of the biggest news stories in the world. And it's always worth us breaking these stories down so that you can be informed with the facts of the conversations that are happening around you. We also know that for TDA, obviously, our audience is largely young people, and many of us, including you and I, Chloe, grew up with One Direction while they were at the peak of their success. I'll never forget when they came to Australia, and I was in high school and went and saw that concert, and it just felt like the biggest thing in the world.
We feel like we know them.
Yeah, and so there is a lot of public interest there, especially when, Liam Payne was only 31. He was so young.
Yeah, this was really shocking yesterday when we all came into the office and news had sort of broke out of Argentina, and we jumped onto it quite quickly in the morning.
Everyone who came in, everyone at the Daily Aus that was coming into the office was just in complete shock. No one could believe it.
Yeah, and because he was so young, and it feels like everyone has just stopped in their tracks thinking, how could this have happened to someone that is 31? We know, Billy, that he was in Argentina at the time. What else do we know?
Yeah, so he was in Buenos Aires, and what we know is that he fell from his hotel balcony. We don't know any further details surrounding the circumstances of that fall, but we know that that is currently under investigation by authorities. Police officers told local media that at around 5 p.m. local time, police were called to the hotel in response to an emergency call that was made by the hotel manager. And he cited, quote, an aggressive man who could be under the effects of drugs and alcohol. Now, the next thing we know for sure is that Payne was confirmed dead in the hotel courtyard, like I said, after falling from a balcony.
Let's look, Billy, broadly at Liam Payne's rise to fame, because there were so many highs in that career that we were all a part of. And so I want to talk about, when did Payne first enter the mainstream?
He was really young. I don't think I realised how young he was. He was 14 years old when he first auditioned for The X Factor in 2008.
One person hoping to continue the success and make his parents proud is 14-year-old schoolboy Liam.
I think about singing all the time. I should really be concentrating on my work, but I just think about singing too much. It's a dream and I'd love to do it.
Now, he didn't get too far in that season, and so he actually went back in 2010, and that is when he auditioned with the song Cry Me a River.
And now you say you're lonely. You cried the whole night through.
Oh, so he auditioned twice. The first time he auditioned wasn't with the success he had with 1D.
No, so he first auditioned in 2008. He wasn't, I don't know exactly how far he got, but he was sent home. And then he came back in 2010 when he was 16. And that is when the judges thought that he would be better in a boy band, along with a group of other young teenage boys who had also auditioned as solo artists. And that is how One Direction formed. So he was in that group with Niall Horan, Zayn Malik, Louis Tomlinson, and Harry Styles.
I have heard of those.
Yes, we have all heard of those boys. And now, you might not know this, Chloe, the group actually came third on the show. So they didn't come first. They didn't win that show.
Was that the same season as Little Mix?
No, Little Mix was the season after.
I wonder who won their series then.
Yeah, I was looking it up. It's like this random guy who I haven't heard of.
Matt Cardle.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm offending his fans, but I personally am not familiar with him.
I think one day we're fine.
Yeah. But it was One Direction's debut single, What Makes You Beautiful, that really catapulted them to international fame. That came out in 2011, so the year after they were in X Factor. And it was actually Liam who was the first one to sing on that. He sings the first verse. Do you remember how it goes, Chloe?
No, I was going to ask you, what's that first line?
I'm
Billy?
absolutely not singing on this podcast. That music video has 1.5 billion views on YouTube.
Wow.
So the band went on to release 5 albums. The album Take Me Home, which was released in 2012, was their most successful. And they kind of all had their own roles and characters in the band. And Liam was definitely kind of seen as like the father of the group. He kind of had this dad vibe about him.
See, I didn't know about Liam being the father. We know Harry was the heartthrob.
Yeah.
Zayn was the bad boy.
Yeah. Or like the mysterious one.
Mysterious one. Louis was the jokester.
Yeah.
Niall was like the baby.
Yeah.
And so Liam was the dad.
Liam was the dad of the group.
Cute.
And of course, they were one of the best-selling boy bands of all time. But then hearts broke in March 2015 when one of the band members, Zayn Malik, announced that he was leaving the group.
Oh, to be in an all-girls school
Yeah.
on the date. You just can't really describe the state.
And then it was in January 2016, so less than a year after. I didn't realise how short of a time after Zayn had left that One Direction announced that they were taking an indefinite hiatus.
Terrible.
Famous words. And of course, they never reunited, at least on a stage, after that happened. And now I want to get to Liam Payne's solo career, but Chloe first, I thought I'd ask you, what is your favourite One Direction song?
One of the favourites has to be Night Changes, the second studio single.
Give
of
us
the
a little
4
rendition.
album. That's so fun. It's like, you know the song.
We're going to have to cut that.
We'll
Not
cut
sure.
that. Don't leave that in. What about you?
Thank you for asking. I loved History. That is maybe one of the greatest songs of all time.
What's the song?
You and me
Yeah.
have a whole lot of history.
Yeah, I knew the song.
Yeah. It is such a good song. I don't know why I love it so much.
Okay, History, so good, so many bangers. And so after that, we know that the group broke off and did their own thing, ventured onto their own solo careers. Some more successful than others. I don't know if you've heard about Harry Styles' success in recent years, but tell me a little bit more about what Liam got up to.
So Liam's debut single was called Strip That Down. It was very successful. It reached number 3 on the UK singles chart, and it was also in the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 in the US. Also, it reached number 2 here in Australia. So that is a lot of success for that single.
I mean, if I'm honest, Billy, I remember that song hugely because of the viral choreography.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It does feel like weird to mention that song without mentioning the corresponding dance.
Yes.
But it was super successful.
It was huge.
It was
everywhere.
huge. And so that single was part of Liam's album LP1, which was released in 2019. And it was his only solo album that we got to hear. Now, in May 2023, Liam did actually say that he was working on a new album. Unfortunately, we never got to hear that album, but earlier this year, Payne did release a single called Teardrops.
Billy, when we look at Liam Payne as a whole and the highs of his career, I think it's really important to touch on what he opened up about later on down the track, which was his addictions and his struggles with alcohol and drugs. And I was wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about what has come from Liam about that.
Yeah, he was really open about a lot of the struggles that he went through during the success of One Direction and also after. So in 2019, Payne told Men's Health Australia that the overnight fame that he experienced with One Direction was quite jarring and also quite lonely. He said, "It's difficult when you have the level of fame that we had in the band. There have been a lot of people in trouble with mental health that aren't really getting the help that they need, and I think that's a bit of a problem in our industry." Also in 2021, he spoke on the Diary of the CEO podcast, where he was talking about hitting rock bottom and how he got very good at hiding that from the public.
I was worried how far my rock bottom was going to be. Where's rock bottom for me? And you would never have seen it. I'm very good at hiding it. No one would have ever have seen it. But rock bottom, I mean, I don't even know if I hit it yet.
Also in that podcast, he spoke about being an alcoholic and going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And he said that alcohol was one of the ways that he kind of coped with the fame of One Direction. Now in 2023, so last year, Payne posted a YouTube video titled I'm Back. And he said in that video that he had taken a break. He said that he had gone to rehab and that he was doing much better, and that at the time of posting that video, he had actually been sober from alcohol for 6 months.
I just took a little bit of time out, actually. Sorry for the MIA. You guys know there was a few reasons why I did that. And I just need to take a little bit of time out for myself, actually, because I kind of became somebody who I didn't really recognise anymore. And I'm sure you guys didn't either.
And that kind of brings us up to the present day. Important to acknowledge, Liam Payne was a complicated person, and there were certainly some controversies in his career and in his life. Even just this week, Billy, I know that there were some headlines popping around.
Yeah, literally this week there was a former partner of Liam Payne who had told a tabloid in the UK that she was planning to take legal action against Payne for repeatedly contacting her. Now, I think that's worth mentioning, definitely, but I also don't think that we need to go into the details of that, partly because we don't really know the details, and we don't know the details of legal action.
But also maybe just not for today.
Yeah, I don't think that today is probably the day to go through that. But I think definitely, again, worth mentioning that he was a complicated person and had very complicated headlines over the years. So he's survived by his 7-year-old child, who he shared with his former partner, singer Cheryl. She was actually a judge on the first season of The X Factor that Payne was on. Now, he also did have a partner at the time of his passing. Her name is Kate Cassidy, and they had been dating for 2 years at the time of his passing. She would actually often post on TikTok of the pair. They would always kind of post their outfits. Randomly, I was actually looking at it over the weekend because it came up on my For You page. So yeah, they would post a lot of content together.
And I think that captures just how sudden this really was and how unbelievably tragic this story is. Billy, thank you so much for walking us through that today.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for listening. If you want to hear us again, we'll be back tomorrow with some good news. But until then, have a good day.